think it's important to be realistic because sometimes if we think that something's gonna work and then it doesn't, it can kind of derail us completely. Coming back to diet, here is my diet tip. See, I fully did go off track. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello YouTube and welcome. Today I will be sharing some harsh truths, I don't know if they're that harsh, and tips on how to get toned, athletic and more sculpted arms without getting bulky. This is part 1. Now, just to give you a teeny tiny bit of background, like proper teeny, like less than 30 seconds. My name is Shona Virtue. I'm an ex-gymnast, personal trainer and yoga teacher with over 13 years experience coaching men and women to get stronger, fitter and more flexible. And I've been training myself for nearly 18 years, so I do have quite a bit to say on this topic. But number 1, form is important. The way we move over time impacts our posture, but it also determines the muscles that we predominantly use in any given exercise. So for example, if I perform my dumbbell lateral raises like this, I'm gonna be working my upper trapezius much more than my deltoids, which are here on my shoulders. Now, if I perform my lateral raise like this, depressing and retracting the shoulder blades, which means pulling the shoulder blades down towards my buttocks and back, I will work my shoulders or my deltoids, which will help me to end up with more of this deltoid shape rather than this. So I know it's boring to do so, but please, please, please pay attention to form because it makes a huge difference and keeps you safe. I've got loads of videos on my Instagram page, so make sure you check them out. All right, tip number 2, you have to be picking challenging weights. Now, I've said this before and I will say it again. Your body is making you better at the things that you're constantly doing. If you're not really challenging your upper body frequently, and I'm gonna say more on that later, then it's unlikely that your body is going to spend useful resources on building muscle there. If you don't use your arms that much, then why would your body lay down muscle beyond what is necessary for your day-to-day life?
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
And here's where the problem arises, right? Many women then have babies and are unprepared for the rigors of picking up that heavy child day in and day out. Now, even if you all don't want kids, low muscularity and strength in the upper body leads to postural or structural issues, which can in turn lead to all kinds of neck and back pain. Anyway,
I'm not trying to scare you into
heavy or lots of lifting. I just really can't stress the importance enough of selecting a weight that is truly challenging. Now, I explain more of this in my programs. You can have a little look here, but I'll link them below. Tip number 3, you don't have to do it in the gym, but you do have to do it consistently. So you can 100% develop a more athletic shape from home, in the park, in a yoga studio. I didn't enter a gym till I was 18 years old. I'm now 35. Prior to that, I was training gymnastics in a gymnastics gym, which is completely different. However, my muscularity, tone, and shape came from my consistency to upper body training and the way I was training, not the location, which brings me to my next point. Tip number 4, pay attention to frequency and volume. So how often you train is just as important as the exercises you're choosing. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be in the gym 5 to 6 days a week, but I am saying that if your goal is hypertrophy, so increasing muscle size, which is the same as like sculpting and toning, then you need to be training the muscle group you really want to change at least 2 times per week, 3 times if you're training full body sessions. Now, this refers to the frequency of training, which is how many times you're training said muscle group per week. Volume refers to the amount of sets within your workout. For a more athletic build or hypertrophy, we want to make sure that we're performing anywhere from 10 all the way up to 20 working sets per week. Now remember, those working sets can be spread across the week, right? That's your frequency. Now, just let me say something. If this is all a bit too overwhelming, don't worry. It was for me too when I started as a trainer, but understanding frequency and volume can really help you to take control of your training and eventually your results. Alternatively, this is already explained and designed for you in my Sculpt program, which you can check here, and I'm shamelessly plugging it, but only because I know that it has actually helped women and men actually, and me, to feel more empowered in their training and way less lost and get results over time. So learning about all these terms like frequency, volume, sets, reps, etc. makes a difference. Tip number 5, diet. Let's talk about it a little without delving into the invisible influence of diet culture. I love having a philosophical chats about the socio-cultural pressures to adhere to beauty standards, but I'm gonna save that for another chat. For now, I'm gonna stay focused on the task at hand, which is, always a bit of a challenge for me. If you have body fat on the back of your arms that you want to get rid of, you cannot really just kind of like tricep press it away. Thousands of these and these are not going to necessarily burn it off, and it really grinds my gears when I see these promises being made all over YouTube saying,
try this fat burning 1,000 rep 5-minute 30-day ab workout challenge.
just no. That being said, if it gets you to be more consistent with your training, then it's actually not a bad thing. But I think it's important to be realistic, because sometimes if we think that something's gonna work and then it doesn't, it can kind of derail us completely. Coming back to diet, here is my diet tip. See, I fully did go off track. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough evidence to support targeted fat loss. But with regards to diet, what would be more beneficial is working towards building muscle in that area by focusing on the tips that I've shared above and ensuring that you're nourishing your body enough to do that job with adequate protein and quality sleep. That's right, we are building during recovery. So if your recovery is inhibited, then your results will be inhibited. Food and sleep support recovery. Actually, I would go as far to say that they are literally the backbone of recovery. Mental health plays a part too, but more in that in part 2. So a quick summary for y'all. 1, focus on form. 2, pick challenging weights. 3, it doesn't have to be in the gym, but it does have to be consistent. 4, pay attention to frequency and volume. And 5, eat enough protein. I'll make another video on that. And get good quality sleep, and I'll make another video on that too. Now, I'm making a part 2 series because there are way more things that I want to share specifically about arms and upper body, but I don't want to inundate you. These things that I've listed previously are just the basics. And if you're not hitting these, then part 2 of this particular upper body video doesn't really matter. In part 2, however, I'm going to share with you my top exercises for upper body training or sculpting, as well as how to start programming them into your own workout regime. I'm also going to share some of the training tricks and nutritional principles that you may want to apply to get you to those goals. If you have any questions about training your upper body, drop them in the comments below and I can address them in part 2. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and don't forget that I release new follow along yoga and workout videos every single week, as well as these informational style videos.